Hi everybody, my name is Lynette. Welcome to my garden. I have been so busy working out there that I have really pretty much been neglecting my pots. Other than doing watering and a weekly fertilizing, I really haven't done any cutbacks, any trimming, even any deadheading. And in today's video, I thought that's what we would do. We'd walk around, look at the pots, do some cleanup, and discuss what is working and what isn't. So I hope you will follow along, and if you find this interesting, please like, subscribe, and share. Let's get started. I thought we would start out here on the patio. I have 6 pots like this. They are identical. And while I love the colors and I love the mixture of plants and textures in here, the thing that I don't like is this mystic blue salvia. And I paid a lot for this plant, but I didn't realize how happy it was going to be here and how big it was going to get. These have been planted now about 8 weeks, so when I put them in, they were little 3-4 inch pots. They've done wonderfully well. I water them and they get fertilized once a week. What I think I'm going to do is come in and kind of trim the salvia down a little bit. Not a lot of it, because realistically I only have another maybe 6 weeks of weather where these will be blooming. And if I were to take this down right now, it would just start blooming when the frost is going to hit. So at this point, I think the only thing I can do is kind of trim it up a little bit. The one thing that I wish I had done was I have cages that in the past I've put over these pots so that when the plants grow up, they don't rock and they don't get as wild looking as this. I should have done that this year, but I didn't. So live and learn. The other thing I could do if I wanted to is I could put some sticks in here, and I might do this in a video. Put some sticks in, get a piece of twine, tie it around, and kind of tie this up so that these would not be quite as big and bulky as they are. But let's go in and do some trimming and see what we can do. I think the first thing I'm going to do is take out maybe this one branch, which will open this up a little to allow the spider plant to be seen, and maybe some of these little white zinnias better. So let's go in and take that down. The spider plants are also putting on, I guess we can call them their spiders. I'm going to clip those off because they're not that pretty looking. And this is weed, so we're going to pull this out. But that does open that up a little bit more, and I think this will start to flower up. And I think overall that looks a little bit better. This one out right in here. And you don't have to take the whole branch back right away. Just start with a couple little trims first. Start small and don't take the whole thing down all at once. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and deadhead a little. I haven't done that in a while. And I think the plant will greatly appreciate it. Now, I don't need to use pruners for this. I just go in and pluck off the deadheads. The reason I think that it's not in bloom is because the salvia was shading it out. So you can see this section back here where it gets more sun is blooming much heavier. So this quick little trim is going to allow the plant to get the sun that it needs to set those flower buds and get going. These are my hummingbird planters, and I have 4 of them. I have 2 steps that go up onto our porch, and I have 2 planters at each of those steps. And these have been really no maintenance plants. They have done phenomenally well. The only problem that I seem to have had is that some of the begonias seem to weep over an awful lot, and I'm afraid they're going to break off when the dogs are running by. So what I do is I stake them up, and I'll show you how I do that. I just go grab a stick that's Y-shaped, and if I need to stake up a section, I can stick the branch down in, and then I use that Y as a way to hold the plants up so that the dogs won't break them when they're running by here. And after a little bit of time, you'll see this will start to hang over a little bit more, but this is sturdy and it's going to stay up there. The hummingbirds are just loving this plant, or this container. The only other thing that I need to do is come in here and deadhead the coleus. And then the shrimp plants in this planter and this one behind me, they did not do so well. I'll take you over and show you the other ones where the shrimp plants, excuse me, grew a little bit taller. This is the second set of steps that go up onto our back porch. And for those of you who are wondering why we have a happy Halloween ramp here, that's because our Sheltie Jada tore her ACL earlier this year. She had surgery and she just had her stitches removed on Tuesday. She came through just fine. She's doing wonderful, but she is on really no activity for the next 3 months, which means no steps, no jumping on furniture. So we are living around that dog right now. So we have carpets all over so she doesn't slip. There's laundry baskets on top of all the furniture so she doesn't jump on that. So it's going to be a trying next couple of months. But we love her, so it's worth it. Anyway, let's look at the plants. Even though this planter is identical to the ones that we just looked at earlier, it is growing a little bit differently, and I think it has to do with the sun direction. This gets an awful lot of sun all day long, and I think the shrimp plant is loving it, which is why it's showing up so much better here. This has been a tremendous success. The hummingbirds just absolutely love these containers. The only thing I really have to do is come in here and deadhead the coleus, take off the flowers that are on there. But really, this has turned out fantastic. And I do have a video on it, as I do with all the planters that I potted up today. There's different videos if you want to see what the plants are, what they look like when they first went in, and their names are there. So be sure to check that out. As we walk towards the front of the house, you'll see these containers of begonias planted underneath the river birch tree. And these have turned out fantastic. No maintenance with these. I've just watered and fertilized them, and they have just been stunning. We just love them so, so much. And this was a spur of the moment thing. There were some daylilies in here that were not growing, or they weren't flowering as well as they should. I removed them this spring and didn't know what to put in here. And just on a whim, I said, let's plant some begonias, and this is what we got, and we are thrilled with it. It's just gorgeous. Now, they are in my self-watering or homemade self-watering containers. And if you're interested in that, there is a video on that. And if you're interested in seeing how I water, I just posted a video probably a week ago on maintenance and watering during the dog days of summer. So you can check that out and see just how easy it is for me to maintain these begonias. I think this is a keeper. We're going to do something very similar next year. Here at the front of the garage, we have 3 identical planters. Even though they were planted identically, they're all growing a little bit different. So I need to go in here and do a little bit of different maintenance on each one. This one seems to be struggling a little bit more than the others. You can see I've got some crispy leaves here from the Rex begonias that need to come off. I just love these Rex begonias. My head was probably just in the way there. But I just think the leaves are so pretty. And you can see my angel wings are not doing that well here. I don't know quite what's going on. I'm going to trim them back just a little bit. See if we can get them to perk up a little bit. And I'm going to leave the cosmos in there so in case these don't perk back up, at least I have a little bit of a filler right there. Clean up some of the elephant ears. I think if I were to do these planters again, I would put the angel wings more in the back and bring these up forward. But overall, I'm very pleased with these planters. And again, there is a diagram of how I did this, and there is another video on exactly what was put into these planters. So check that out. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and clip out some of these dead elephant ears. We had a bad storm and it really knocked some of these back quite a bit. They broke off in the storm. There's a lot of nice little new growth coming in here, so that will fill out rather quickly. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back this cosmos. I tried the cosmos in here because I liked the ferny texture with the other bold texture, but I wanted it more in back and not coming out in the front. And you're going to notice that this one, the cosmos, has come far out, and I think that's because it gets the sun. It can actually reach for the sun here, whereas in the others it can't. So I'm just going to come in and take these right down. If they want to grow back between now and when the frost hits, that's fine. This one doesn't need that much. There's not much dead stuff in here that I need to worry about. The elephant ears look pretty good. The Rex begonias are in good shape. I think I'm going to take some of these elephant ears back and just keep the ones that are more towards the back. Here on the north side of the garage, I have 4 planters, all identical to this, but this one is by far looking the best. This is what you envision in your brain when you're putting these things together. And there's really not much I need to do in here. I do have to come in, deadhead the coleus, because I don't like coleus flowers. There's not much to them. And I think they distract from the plant, because I grow coleus for its foliage, not these skimpy little flowers. And then the only other thing I saw, yep, there's a couple dead leaves in here. But that is really nice. As we move down to the next one, it's okay looking. The elephant ears aren't quite as nice as that one over there, and we still just need to do some basic maintenance. We're going to remove some dead leaves or damaged leaves. We've got the spider plants. We're going to remove those because they're not so pretty looking. They're going to send these out and they're going to make the baby spider plants on there, but we don't need to worry about that. There's a big one. Again, we did have some wind and rain storm come through that really knocked some of these things back. Now, just like the planters that I had around the patio, I'm going to trim out some of this concoleus. It's choking out the polka dot plant that was behind it. So I'm going to come in here and clip this down. Now, I'm not going to throw this coleus out. I'm actually going to take it in the house and I'm going to see if I can put it in water and root it so that I will have some plants for next year if I can overwinter them in the basement. So not throwing that out. Not sure if you can see in here, I had to put some sticks. As I mentioned, we had a storm that came through and just knocked this. This one looked every bit as nice as that first one that we saw, but the storm came through and the elephant ears were just falling all over the place. So I stuck some sticks in the center here, and then I've got some string. I actually used yarn and just tied them up to hold the elephant ears up, and I used this as a brace in the back to help hold them up. So this one is not as pretty as the others, but it's coming back from the storm. We're going to do the same basic cleanup. I'm going to cut back any of the dead elephant ears, get those out of there. Clean up some of this spider plant. And then we're going to break off the flowers on the coleus. And there we go. That one's looking a little better. And then finally we have this one over here, which while I'm here, I'm going to clip off some of these dead branches. Now for this container, you may notice that the elephant ears are really small right here. And if you followed, I did a video on starting my elephant ears. I started them in my bathroom in, oh goodness, I think it was February. And I had, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elephant ears. 6 of them came up really, really good, and 1 of them didn't. So I had to go back, and I bought another elephant ear, and I started that one. And then the one that didn't grow started to grow. I gave 1 elephant ear away, and I kept the one, I think I kept the one that was struggling to grow, and I shouldn't have done that because once it struggles, it always struggles. So this one, I don't know. It's not doing so well. This shrub tends to give it a lot more shade. This is the north side, so this blocks the late afternoon sun. Those down there get a little bit more sun late afternoon, which is why I think this one is maybe not growing as well as it should, but I don't know. The other thing I have in these planters, in each of these planters, there's the polka dot plant, which you can see in here, is getting crowded out by the concoleus, and there's only 1 concoleus in here. I also put some calla lilies in here. They were on sale at Lowe's, and I thought I'd tuck them in. This one's doing the best out of all of them. The others, they're practically gone from there, along with some fuchsia. I had fuchsia that was supposed to be in there. That did not survive. I don't know why, because fuchsia has always survived here in the past, but every year is different. Anyway, I wouldn't put calla lilies in here again. They're not doing anything. They're in bloom down here, but they're really not giving us much otherwise. And I'm going to be clipping some of this off and watering the coleus off and putting it in a pot so hopefully I can get it to root, just like the other piece. So I'll have different types of coleus down in the basement this winter. And hopefully next year I won't have to buy the concoleus. I've grown elephant ears in these pots around the garage for several years, and every year they've turned out really good. They've always ended up looking like this, which is why I'm a little bit disappointed this year that all of the pots aren't as full and as beautiful as this one is. The difference being that in the past I have bought already grown plants from our local nursery called Olney's, and they have done fantastic. This year I bought corms and I started them myself in my bathroom, and they grew fantastic, and when I put them in they looked very similar to what I had purchased at Olney's, so I thought I was saving a little bit. But overall the Olney's plants did better in past years than these have done. Now, I'm not sure if it's a different variety of elephant ear, which very well could be. But right now, if I decide to do elephant ears, especially the black ones out here like I did this year, next year, I will probably be buying plants from Olney's, and I will skip buying the bulbs in the stores. So, but overall, I think they turned out okay. We still have some time to go, although tonight, believe it or not, it's supposed to be down to about 49 degrees, and these guys don't really like it when it gets below 48. But hopefully being up close to the garage will keep them a little bit warmer. But anyway, the elephant ears, I love them here. I wish they were a little fuller, but maybe they'll fill out. We still have, what, another 6 to 8 weeks to go. Here at the gazebo, the 4 planters on the corners, another one, no muss, no fuss. We'll come in and I'll show you quickly what's here so you can take a look at them. These containers contain the Gardenmeister fuchsia, that's the tall one in the back, it's a hummingbird magnet. Then we have the Encanto waterfall begonias. There are these white ones down at the bottom. There's some variegated vinca, and then there was a couple, I had a couple leftover impatiens that I just tucked in there. But again, no muss, no fuss. All I've done is water and fertilize. Haven't even had to come down and trim. So now let's head down here and check out the sheep. We call this part of our property the picnic zone because when we moved here 16, 17 years ago, there were no trees on the property except for these wild maples. And this was the only place that we had shade, so we put a couple picnic tables down here and we'd come down here to eat in the summertime. Over time, as the other trees have grown up and we've put more structures in, we don't come down here for picnicking that often, but I still wanted a reason for people to come down here, something that would draw you down. Thus come the sheep planters. We put these in here as a way, as a focal point, as a way to encourage people to come down and check them out. Because as you're up at the house and you're walking down here, they really do kind of look like sheep. You know they're not real sheep, but it gives you that illusion and it forces you to come down and take a look. And this is a nice quiet little area back here. Right behind me is the stream and it wraps around, and then we have a little bridge that goes over there, and then back in that section is what we call the nature trail. It just follows right along the edge of the creek. Now, it was important to not put permanent structures down here because in the spring, this usually floods and it's underwater. So we didn't want anything that could be floating away. And the sheep planters have held up wonderful. Basically, it's just made from found objects that we had around the house here and then planted with some white impatiens. And they're doing okay. I see a couple little Japanese beetles in here, which I'll need to get down and take care of them. But this is another no fuss section. So I'll take as many of those as I can get. And I am doing a video if anybody wants to know how to make these sheep planters. That should be coming out soon, or maybe it's even going to come out before this one. I'm not really sure, but check that out. This year I decided to do something a little bit different in my garden. Lowe's was running some sales on some great big huge planters pots, and I bought them and I've scattered them in and around my garden. I've never done this before, and I'm not going to say it's a success. I'm not going to say it's a failure either. This is one of the better looking ones. I like this one because it's kind of tucked in to a little alcove here where you have a nice dark backdrop and it shows up really nicely. The ones that are out in the garden, not too crazy about. I think it's a learning curve. I just need to figure out what can go in there, and maybe not putting a mixed planter in the gardens might be the way to go, or doing something a little bit simpler than I did with some of them. But this one I think works really well here because as you're coming down this pathway, you can see this planter and it looks really nice and fresh. And haven't done anything except water and fertilize. And I'm pretty pleased that the bunnies and the woodchuck have not found it, or maybe these are resistant to them, but I think it turned out really pretty. While this pot might not look like much, I think it has great potential. It's dahlias surrounded by some dusty miller. The dahlias have a nice dark foliage and they have these beautiful pink flowers, but they really haven't produced a lot of flowers yet, and I don't understand why. Now, I'm not a dahlia grower. This is really the first time I've ever put dahlias in a pot. Therefore, I'm just learning. but I love the simpleness of this. I love it in this section of the garden, and I chose dahlias because I know they're a late season flower, and the whole reason I was putting flower pots in the garden was to help bring in some of that late season of color. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun and expecting them to be doing a little bit better than they are, but cross our fingers that these will open up and really start to shine pretty soon. It's probably a little hard to tell that there's a pot in here because I desperately need to get in here and deadhead these daisies. But we have some Angelonia white, we have some Gomphrena, and then we have the Hoopla petunia in here. And it's a nice combination. I think it's going to work. I think it will look better once I get in here and deadhead some of this stuff. But I love it up against the grass in the background. I think this one has great potential. Again, it's a little bit simpler than some of the other containers that I don't think are working. I'll try and get out here with a picture once I get out here and deadhead. This pot probably isn't looking as good as it is in person. This is the Gomphrena from Proven Winners. And what I like about this pot is I think I have 2 plants in here. I can't remember what this is at the bottom, but it looks more like it's a perennial in the garden and not an annual. And that's really what I was hoping to do with these pots within the garden, is to help extend the bloom season out longer, because it's not going to be long and most of my perennials are going to be done, and I'm really going to be relying on these pots to give me some late season color. This one I think is working. I have tried to plant Gomphrena in the ground before and the rabbits demolished it. So putting it in a pot seems to be a safe bet for me, and I really, really like this. I think doing this in different parts of the garden is going to be an option and something I do in the future. And then look, we've got a little bit of cramby that's reblooming. That's cool. That looks pretty together. I really need to get out and deadhead those delphiniums. I'm a lazy gardener sometimes. This is a pretty pot, but it's one that I'm not too sure that I really like here in the garden. It's beautiful. This is that Mystic Blue Salvia, which is nice. I love the height of it, love the blue in the garden. I just don't know. I think it's lost. I don't think there's enough contrast in the back of it that you can see it. I was hoping with the yellow shrub behind that it would give enough contrast, but I'm not sure that there is. Maybe later in the season when everything else is starting to really look tired, this is going to shine and I'll be so happy it's here. But right now, this one is kind of, I don't know. And this is in a main part of the garden. It's what I see from the kitchen window. Like I said, it's a pretty pot. Love the combination in here. I just don't know if it's working in this spot. The final planter that I'm not 100% sure of is this one that has the salvia from Proven Winners. It's dark, dark, dark purple, which is kind of getting lost in here. I'm thinking if I had done maybe the fuchsia or the blue, it would have shown up a little bit better. At the same time, I love this section of the garden. I love the contrast of the grass with this dark green leaf, this hydrangea in the back, and the 9-bark. And then you can see here we have some Nicotiana, and we have, oh, I can't think of what this is called. It's not Datura. I'll put it on the screen, but this blooms in the evening with these great big, huge morning glory-like flowers. Beautiful, beautiful section of foliage here. It looks really, really nice. And in the background, you can see we go around the corner here with some daylilies. I love how nice and full this is. And there's also some hoopla petunias down here, which earlier in the season when it was getting more sun, those hooplas really looked fantastic. I think it might be just a matter of finding the right plants in here for the amount of sun that it gets. But right now, I love the combination. I love the foliage, but this dark, dark purple just gets lost in the background here. It should be something a little lighter, I think. Thank you so much for spending your time today with me as we toured the planters in my garden. Please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you're interested in learning how to make these sheep planters, there's a video coming out on that very shortly. And then in the fall, I will be taking apart my self-watering containers and we'll look and we'll see how the roots grew inside those. So be sure you share, like, and subscribe. And if you're interested in learning about the plants or some of these planters that we talked about today, check out my playlist on containers, and that should have all kinds of information on a lot of the things that we covered. Take care, have a great day, and get out in your garden and have some fun.